One of Portland's native sons goes home. The U.S. national team and Canada getting ready to take on the Caribbean. And DC United on the verge of acquiring some new owners. Next on The Daily. Hey everyone, Greg Lalas and Simon Borg here at MLSsoccer.com. And the big news on Wednesday was the trade between the Portland Timbers and the Philadelphia Union. Danny Mwanga going out to the Cascadia region, where he's basically from. He spent his prep career and his college career in Oregon. He's joining the Portland Timbers. Jorge Perlaza going to Philadelphia. Now, it's been sort of a fire sale in Philadelphia, but what do Portland get out of this in Mwanga?
I think for Portland, it's a forward in Mwanga that can also play make. I think they're looking for more creativity in attack, so Mwanga brings that. But it remains to be seen how he combines with other players. The only player we've seen him combine well with in his career, Sebastien Letou. Of the 12 goals Mwanga has scored in MLS, 9 of them have been assisted by Letou. So how well can he combine with Chris Boyd and the wingers in Portland? Portland, not a team that scores a lot of goals, statistics have shown. So can he really fit in?
Timbers actually have said they've been chasing Mwanga for a while, and it was the loss in the U.S. Open Cup to Cal FC that finally sparked them to make the deal to acquire him. Now, going the other way, Jorge Perlaza, the guy who scored the first goal for the Timbers at Geldwen Field in 2011. And Simon, he was sort of a cult figure for the Timbers Army and the fans out there. What did the Philadelphia Union get from this speedster?
I think it's his speed. You said it. The fact that his speed can put opposing defenses off balance, I think, is a big deal for Philadelphia, because right now the complement of players the Union has can't really do that. I think his speed, his ability to run off Pahoy, who's a forward who can hold the ball up and feed him the passes, I think that could really prove to be a good combination.
The Union are struggling right now in 8th place in the Eastern Conference. It remains to be seen whether Peter Novak will keep playing that one forward up top, or does he bring Perlaza in and play that second man with them. Well, we've been talking the last couple of weeks, getting ready for World Cup qualifying to kick off for the United States men's national team, and that happens on Friday when they host Antigua and Barbuda down in Tampa. A lot of questions, Simon, about who's going to start at center back, most likely alongside Carlos Bocanegra.
For me, it has to be Jeff Cameron. He's a player who gives you that playmaking ability, and I think you need a guy who can put a clean pass through, maybe send that pinpoint long ball, because against Antigua, they're going to be blockaded in their own box. So you need someone who can immediately pick up the ball and start the fresh attack, and Cameron can do it.
Now, what about up top? There have been questions there as well. Will Josie Altidore get the start up top alone with Clint Dempsey in behind him? We saw against Canada, Simon, that actually Clint Dempsey was the guy up top with Josie as one of the wingers with Landon Donovan and whoever else might be there. Who do you think starts up top?
I'd be honest with you, Greg. I think it's going to be such a siege on that Antigua box. It doesn't matter. I think when it comes down to it, I would rather have Chris Wondolowski there. I want a guy who can finish the ball. Ball gets to him. He puts it in. Perhaps Herculez Gomez would be my favorite. I think Altidore and Boyd are guys you want when it's more of a battle, when you want to stretch defenses, when there are more tactics at play. Here, you just got to put the ball in the back of the net.
Well, that game is at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on Friday. It'll be on ESPN. On MLSsoccer.com, there will be a live chat as well, so make sure to join us for that. Now, Simon, Canada, they play in the afternoon, 2 p.m. Eastern Time. It's on Sportsnet up in Canada. They're taking on Cuba. In Cuba, it is going to be hot, and they know it. The Cubans are actually banking on that heat hurting Canada. The problem for Canada right now, though, is they don't really know who they're going up against.
Yeah, Cuba, still an unknown quantity to the Canadians. What they do know is that there are several good athletes on the Cuban side. That's something they did highlight. And look, if Canada's going to be considered on the world stage in CONCACAF, you got to be able to go into Cuba and win a game. And if it's the heat, whatever the excuse, their athleticism, none of that can be an excuse if you really now want to take your game to another level.
And let's be honest, this Canadian team should be better than the Cuban team, regardless of who goes out there for Cuba. Again, that game is at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. It's on Sportsnet up in Canada. And then that night, Friday night, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, the U.S. national team hosting Antigua and Barbuda. That game is on ESPN in the U.S. A little news on the business front for DC United. Club president Kevin Payne was on a podcast yesterday, and he said basically, we are looking to have new owners in by this month, in June actually.
Yeah, he said at the earliest it could happen this month. May not, but it could happen at the end of this month, which is great news because he says that's going to impact on two fronts. One, the player front. The new resources means they're going to be able to compete with any club in the league. That's big news for DC fans. And then on the stadium front, he says they can now resume discussions at that point with the district about a new stadium. It changes the game here for DC.
Not only that, Simon, but actually Payne indicated that those discussions will continue not only with the district, but also with Baltimore. So stay tuned for news with DC United on the stadium front. Later on today on MLSsoccer.com, the latest edition of the Extra Time Radio podcast will be out. The guys will be speaking with Herculez Gomez from the US national team and Santos Laguna down in Mexico. A last bit of news, speaking of Mexico, Edgar Castillo has gone from a permanent move from Club America to Tijuana, so he'll be with the Cholos next year as well. That's it for us here on The Daily. We'll talk to you tomorrow.